around the capital city of Ankara. The protests started in opposition to plans to redevelop a park in Istanbul, but escalated into wider demonstrations against a government which critics see as authoritarian. Nick Childs reports.
Angry confrontation on the streets of Istanbul, which also spread to the capital, Ankara. Protesters flee in the face of police water cannon, a fusillade of tear gas and pepper spray. A police response that seemed only to fuel tensions. The images also prompted a rebuke from Turkey's key ally, the United States, and left the authorities on the defensive.
Wherever you go around the world, governments take precautions against these kinds of movements. That's what we're doing here. The misuse of tear gas by our security forces is being investigated by our ministry. I don't deny the abuse.
The demonstrations, which flared up yesterday and carried on through the night, are the most serious anti-government protests Turkey has witnessed in years. They were sparked by a row over plans to develop part of Istanbul's historic Taksim Square.
Last night I was water cannoned, tear gassed 4 or 5 times, as were many of my friends. The helicopters were dropping tear gas bombs on the area last night, so we were getting gassed in our houses.
Chants for the government to go as protesters carpet Taksim Square again. They flooded back after the police withdrew, apparently to defuse tensions. But there may be deeper roots to these protests. The Prime Minister's opponents see him as increasingly authoritarian. Tighter restrictions just brought in on alcohol sales have also stoked the debate over whether the current Islamic-based government is shifting the delicate political balance in a state that is predominantly Muslim but constitutionally secular. The square may become the focus of continuing discontent. Nick Childs, BBC News.
Let's have a look at the scene live now. We have seen how over the last few hours it's quietened down a bit from the last 2 days where we've seen a lot of tear gas being fired, but the scene we'll go to specifically is, if we might not be able to actually, is Taksim Square, which, as I say, is relatively quiet, but if we're not able to go to that live now, we might be able to in a moment. Let's speak to Celine Grit, who's from the BBC Turkish service. Hello to you, Celine. Has been helping us with this through the afternoon. It's not all quiet at the moment, is it?
No, it's not all quiet. Previously, there were clashes in the capital city, Ankara. Now the police are withdrawn from there. But in Istanbul, very close to the central square where all the events are taking place, very close to Taksim, there's another district called Beşiktaş, and there are clashes between police and demonstrators in that particular district. And there's a Prime Minister's office in that particular district, and the police is guarding that building at the moment. There are tear gas being thrown at the demonstrators. I've been following what people have been posting on Twitter and social websites, and they're calling for help.
So what does it look like now in terms of numbers? Is the situation escalating or quietening down?
Well, it is fluctuating, we can say. Like an hour ago, we could have said that, oh, now it has started to fade away because the police has started to withdraw. Everything is now like a carnival festival. People are dancing on the square. But now, in another part of Istanbul, clashes are taking place. So we can't really say it is escalating or vice versa, but we don't really know how things will evolve. Really, it depends very much on on both sides on what they do.
And where are we now on the thinking as to what exactly is behind this? We know it started, slightly bizarrely, with what was a relatively small planning issue for a green space by Taksim Square. It is clearly now, and we're looking at the pictures from earlier in the day, it has clearly moved on considerably from that.
It looks like a minor issue, but actually it has a background to it. This is about the gentrification of Istanbul. In that sense, if we're talking about the opposition, the environmentalists' opposition, they're opposing the gentrification of the city, shopping malls being built everywhere, and green places being destroyed. That's the environmentalist background, but there is a wider sense of dissent towards the government, and that is about the freedom of speech, actually. They are thinking their freedom to speak is being oppressed because they can't have their voices heard in the media, they can't have their... they do protests, but nothing seems to change. And as they started to see that, I think it just got out of proportion, really.
Well, we are back on live pictures now with it going dark, and this was, I think this is probably Taksim Square. Yes, the Taksim
Yes.
Square we're in. So this is fairly quiet, but what you were describing before is off from here.
Yes.
Is not so quiet. Is the undertone to this religion and whether Turkey remains as a secular state or not?
That is one of the things, but not all. We can't say that only secularists are there on the street today. There are people from all walks of life on a very wide political spectrum. There are communists, there are socialists, there are Islamists, there are anti-capitalist Muslims, and that's what they call themselves. There are students, there are ordinary people with no political affiliation whatsoever. There are people who have been protesting for the first time in their lives. And there are people, shopkeepers, and opening their shops for protesters to just relax and then go on. This actually shows this is bigger than a political anti-government protest. This is the first biggest spontaneous upheaval in Turkey for the last 30, 40 years, really.
So ultimately, then, what does that mean? I mean, does it show a government losing grip?
Well, at the moment, it kind of looks like that. But the government needs to take quick steps in order to prevent that kind of opinion being persevered amongst people. The people want their voices to be heard. The people want the police tactics to be changed. They don't want that much brutality. And the Prime Minister actually conceded to that. He actually accepted that there were some excessive forces used. He actually said that there were mistakes made. But he needs to take, I think, further steps backwards in order to constrain the public. And we'll see in the following couple of hours, actually not even days, whether that kind of steps will be taken.
Okay, all right, well, maybe the police withdrawal a few hours ago from the square is part of that. But Celine, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Now, a man has a